Hello, I am Peter Okwacha. Welcome to Focus on Africa, our top stories. Cyclone Kenneth makes landfall in Mozambique just a month on from the devastation caused by another storm. How ready is the country to weather this one? 3 prominent members of Sudan's Transitional Military Council resign amid another day of massive protests.
The military council is simply wasting time, hoping that we will get disappointed and go home. But we still have demands. We have been here for 4 months already. We can wait for 100 years until we get what we want.
Also on the program, devastating deforestation. New worries as researchers say 12 million hectares of tropical forests were lost last year. That's the equivalent of 30 football fields every minute. And in sport, the London Marathon is set for this weekend, but it's the very public spat between these two greats that's making all the headlines. Thanks for joining us here on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. Just over a month after Mozambique was devastated by Cyclone Idai, another tropical storm, this time called Kenneth, has made landfall in the north of the country. Over 600 people were known to have died and hundreds more have still not been found since Idai struck, and the cleanup from that disaster is still going on. Neighboring Tanzania is also expected to be impacted by the strong wind and rainfall from Kenneth, but there the threat has been downgraded. The BBC's Abubakar Famau is in Mtwara in southern Tanzania, near the border with Mozambique, joins us now. Kenneth, Abubakar, Kenneth has hit land now. How bad is it?
Yeah, we are told that Kenneth cyclone has hit the southern part of Mozambique. Although at a slower speed than the one initially expected. And so far, there are reports that there is significant damage that has been caused there, including destroying or damaging buildings and also farms. Also, there is also heavy rains, and this is expected for some few days, and it will therefore cause some floods at the same time.
So you talk about those floods that it could cause, and just a month ago there were heavy floods, heavy devastation to southern Mozambique. How prepared is the country for this new cyclone?
This time around, they seem slightly better prepared compared to the last time when they were struck by Idai. Since morning, there are reports that police and also soldiers have been, busy clearing blocked roads, also trying to evacuate, people from 17 high-risk districts. Also, some people who refused initially to move on their own, they were forced to, or they were forcefully evacuated from those areas. So this time around, it seems like the authorities are slightly or better prepared than before.
So that's the case in Mozambique. You are in Tanzania, where the storm has been downgraded. Let's just listen to this regional commissioner and hear why.
Kadiri ya kauli ya mamlaka ya hali ya hewa ni kwamba tishio bado lipo.
According to the Met Department, there's still some threat, although it has now moved further towards northern Mozambique. From our own readings, we have seen the winds moving at less than 50 kilometers per hour, and the rains have also stopped and the skies have cleared. So we have allowed people to go back to their homes and back to their businesses. But they should listen out for further announcements from official sources and be cautious of news from social media, which is misleading people.
Abubakar, some would argue that downgrading this storm in Tanzania is a bit too, they've done it a bit too quickly. What are you hearing from there?
Actually, since I'm here, and there were too much expectations in the morning, people thought maybe by this time there will have been a lot of damage that has been caused by by the effect of Cyclone Kenneth. But as we moved along, towards the day, things were out of the expectations. There were no heavy rains as earlier predicted, and also there were no strong winds. So this led the authorities, to downgrade the threat of the cyclone. But it is too early again, as you've just mentioned, because it is still ongoing. The threat is still ongoing, and we still have the whole night. To observe. There could be any further effect as the cyclone continues to make its journey towards other areas.
Okay, Abubakar Famau, live there from Mtwara in southern Tanzania on the border with Mozambique. Thank you very much. Let's take a quick look now at other stories making the headlines across Africa. We stay in Mozambique, where 10 people have been found guilty of carrying out armed attacks in the north of the country and sentenced to 40 years in prison. A number of other defendants got shorter sentences for lesser offences. Militants have been carrying out attacks in some districts of Cabo Delgado since October 2017. A former member of Gambia's military junta has admitted he ordered the execution of soldiers who took part in a coup. Sana Sabali told a committee that he was the commander and so had to accept responsibility. Last week, remains of 7 soldiers were exhumed as part of an investigation into human rights abuses during President Yahya Jammeh's rule. And a trader in Kano, northwest Nigeria, has become the first Chinese man to be given a traditional title in the region. Mike Zhang has been appointed the Walikin Yan China, or the leader of the Chinese community. It is hoped he will act as a liaison officer to solve business conflicts between Chinese and Kano traders. 3 of the most controversial figures in Sudan's ruling Transitional Military Council have resigned. It's one of the key demands of the protest movement. The 3 were seen as staunch Islamists and allies of the deposed President Omar al-Bashir, who was overthrown 2 weeks ago. But protesters still aren't satisfied yet. There has been a huge march today and a concert is taking place in Khartoum. This evening, the BBC's Mohanad Hashim is there. He sent this report from the stage.
The Sudanese Professionals Association has called for a million march today, and you can see the crowds behind me. They came from all over the country to Khartoum to press the Transitional Military Council to give them what they want, which is a civilian government. Last night, 3 of the controversial figures with Islamist leanings who were pro-Bashir tendered their resignations from the Transitional Military Council, and these crowds are here to put more pressure on the Transitional Military Council. Earlier, I walked among the crowds and I asked a few of them what were their aspirations and what they wanted. And most people seem to agree that what they want is a civilian administration to oversee the transitional period.
It's the responsibility of Sudanese Professionals Association and the forces of change to avoid any splits or divisions. We are in the middle of a historic moment for our nation. Any divisions will break the back of Sudan.
We just want a government that is qualified, that doesn't judge you on your religion or age or any other personal characteristics. You should just be judged on how you do your job. If you're creative in your field, you should have a chance.
The military council is simply wasting time, hoping that we will get disappointed and go home. But we still have demands. We have been here for 4 months already. We can wait for 100 years until we get what we want.
Now
the ball is in the opposition's court. The pressure that they have mounted has led the military council for those controversial figures to resign. The challenge is, will the opposition be able to come up with its list of nominations and the figures that can oversee a civilian transitional administration?
Mohanad Hashim there from Khartoum. This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News. Still to come, Mimi has all the sports. Liverpool and Senegal international Sadio Mane is the only African to make it onto a football list. Stay tuned to find out which one. I'm Peter Okwaja. The top stories this hour. Cyclone Kenneth makes landfall in Mozambique just a month on from the devastation caused by another storm. How ready is the country to weather this one? And 3 prominent members of Sudan's Transitional Military Council resign amid another day of massive protests. Now, millions of children are missing out on measles vaccinations, leading to a resurgence of the immunizable disease around the world, according to a new report by the UN Children's Agency, UNICEF. Their research has found 169 million children worldwide were not vaccinated globally between 2010 and 2017. Measles is usually treated with 2 vaccine doses during childhood. In Nigeria, just over 4 million children missed out on their first jab. Meanwhile, there are 20 countries in sub-Saharan Africa where the crucial second dose has not been introduced. More than 100,000 cases of measles were reported worldwide in the first quarter of 2019. But what's the picture like on the African continent? It's a question I put to Raul Camejo, immunization specialist at UNICEF.
Don't you think it's unfortunate to talk about a disease that has a vaccine for close to half a century, a vaccine that is available for free, that is given almost all the health facility? The situation in Africa is, as what you read in the news. In Madagascar, we have one of the biggest measles outbreak in the history of the country. We have cases of measles and big outbreak in DRC. There are cases popping up in South Sudan, in Kenya, in Ethiopia.
You mentioned the fact that this vaccine is readily available. Why are people not taking their children to be vaccinated?
I think what we see in Africa is a situation where the systems are not strong enough, they're not mature enough to provide the measles vaccines to all the children who actually need them. So it's a kind of a different situation where from that what you see in Europe or in the US. In Africa, people want the vaccine, but in most cases the system is just not mature enough to deliver the vaccine to those who need them.
So who is at fault here? Is it the governments who are not able to provide them? Is it the health agencies, the international community? Who should be providing these vaccines to these children?
Oh, there are various dynamic actually going on, Peter. We have various type of country where we have a different situation playing. In countries where you have a political instability, where you have insecurity, cases like South Sudan, of course you have challenges. You don't have system strong enough. But in other countries, I think we just have some systemic issues that government should work on, and of course with the support of partners. I don't think there's a blame to assign, but it's just like in many other sectors, systems are maturing. But we have to insist on the fact that the situation that you see in Africa now should not obscure the fact that the continent has made huge progress in the fight against measles. If you compare the number of cases of measles that you see nowadays to what we have 20 years ago, the number of cases has just decreased by almost 90%. So there's a lot that has happened, but unfortunately what we see now is totally unacceptable.
So indeed a lot has happened, but Raul, are you bemused, some would ask, by the fact that despite measles being a major ongoing problem in Africa, the rest of the world now is picking up on it because it's become a problem in the United States, the UK, France, and some other parts of the Western world?
In the US, in Europe, immunization is kind of victim of its own success. They have achieved high immunization rate. The disease is completely rare, and people focus more on, some of the small issue related to the vaccine. But I want to highlight the fact that those vaccine refusals, they represent an extremely tiny fraction of the reasons why we still have outbreak in places like Africa. I really want to insist on the fact that what we see in Africa should not happen. And we should definitely continue to work with the government to strengthen their systems, to allow them to provide vaccine to those who need them.
Raul Camaggio from UNICEF speaking to me there. Now, new research shows that around 12 million hectares of tropical forests were lost last year. That's the equivalent of 30 football fields every minute. Global Forest Watch says deforestation has a new frontline, West Africa, where older carbon-rich trees, which are critical to regulating climate change, are being cut down at an alarming rate. Victoria Uwahunda reports.
A stern warning. Environmentalists are worried by the increase in primary forest losses. These are the forests that still exist in their original condition and have been virtually untouched by humans. Among the countries with the highest loss of primary forest is the Democratic Republic of Congo. It lost almost 500,000 hectares last year. Logging, mostly for charcoal, which is used as fuel for many locals, has been blamed for deforestation across the world. Ghana and Ivory Coast had the highest percentage rise in primary forest loss in any tropical country at 60% and 26% respectively. Most of this increase, particularly in Ghana, is said to be due to small-scale gold mining as well as an expansion of cocoa farming. Commercial and agricultural interests have also been mentioned as other main causes to the rise in forest loss and deforestation in recent decades. The loss of forest trees is a threat to wildlife, like the lemurs in Madagascar and elephants and many others in East and Central Africa. Victoria Uwahunda, BBC News.
Let's get more on that story now. Nimo Bassi is the director of Mother Earth Foundation. He joins me from Port Harcourt in southern Nigeria. Nimo, why are we cutting down our forests?
Oh, that's a good question, but, you know, why are humans cutting down the forest? Not necessarily people who live in forest communities, because the forest communities are protecting their forests, they're defending their environment, and there are many forces of extraction just coming against the people. So it's a lot of geopolitical play. There is a lot of hunger for timber from Africa, for example, from outside of the continent. And these are the forces that are driving deforestation as far as I can see. Yeah, so these are the challenges. People looking for special woods for furniture and other things way outside the forest communities. These are the people putting the pressure because from what I see in Nigeria, for example, forest communities are very, very careful about protecting their heritage.
And what incentives, if any, can be given to stop this deforestation? Because it is actually destroying the climate.
It is indeed. And the challenge is that our governments can address this issue by giving support to forest communities to protect their environment, to protect their trees, as they've been doing, because they live in very good harmony with their resources, taking what needs to be taken out while preserving the ecosystem generally. So they need support in terms of supporting alternative energy sources. They need support in terms of keeping away illegal loggers and those who need this timber for export, and more or less also supporting the small-scale farmers who are the ones cooling the planet.
So, Nimo, if we admit that some people cut down forests for their basic energy uses, I'm thinking about the woman in my village who wants firewood for cooking. You know, how do you convince her that actually this tree is more important than just firewood?
Well, those who depend on forests do know the importance of the wood to their environment, to their livelihoods generally. But we're seeing in some places where charcoal, some exporters are producing charcoal for export. For example, in Enugu State in Nigeria, where we are reading reports about some Chinese business people who are cutting down trees and making firewood for export. So it's not just the woman in the village, but they do need. They have that challenge also. You find that even in the cities, because of the cost of alternative energy, many people see the wood as the cheapest source. And so that helps in deforestation also.
Okay, Nimo Bassi, thank you very much for being here on Focus on Africa with us. Very, very much appreciated. You're watching BBC Focus on Africa. It's now time for some sports. Mimi, a very public spat.
Ooh, definitely one. We begin in athletics. This weekend we'll see two heavyweights go head-to-head. Mo Farah and Eliud Kipchoge. But in the build-up to it, there's been controversy brewing off the track, as Sophie Ikenye reports.
The London Marathon takes place on Sunday, but the event has been overshadowed by a very public spat between four-time Olympic champion Mo Farah and Ethiopia's long-distance great Haile Gebrselassie. The dispute is over an alleged theft at a hotel belonging to the Ethiopian athletics great in Addis Ababa last month. At a preview event of the London Marathon, Farah made claims that money, a watch and two phones were taken from his room and that Gebrselassie didn't help him.
There was just slightly bit of problem with my hotel I stayed in Ethiopia, where someone at the hotel gone into my bag, opened my bag, took my money, took my nice watch. My wife bought me a present. Just to be honest, it's Haile owns the hotel, and when you stay for 3 months in that hotel, it was very disappointing to know someone who has that hotel and that kind of support couldn't do nothing. And at the end, I was just like, they couldn't do nothing. So just disappointed highly, I should say.
Okay, well.
On my birthday.
Gebrselassie has responded to the claims with a statement to BBC Sport and said he was considering legal action against him. He responded by accusing Farah of blackmail and defaming his reputation and business.
I bring the case through my hotel because this is serious. I mean, himself, he mentioned, I'm not responsible for your business. What do you mean, I'm not responsible? After he damaged a lot of things. Yes, he's responsible. Wherever he is, he has to be responsible for the damage of our business. Maybe he's not responsible for the name of Haile Gebrselassie, to destroy this name. Thanks to him, without my presence in London Marathon, he bring my name there. Not in good way, but in bad way.
Farah disputes all the claims. This very public spat seems set to continue even after the London Marathon is over.
And staying with the London Marathon, but away from the dispute, defending champion Kenya's Vivian Cheruiyot has given a warning to her rivals. Cheruiyot says that she's in better shape than last year as she prepares to take part this weekend in the women's elite race.
Last year in New York, I didn't finish the race because of breathing system. I had a problem with my chest. But I was in good shape. And this year, I had a race in Lisbon. I did my personal best of 66:34. What I can say today is I'm in better shape than last year. On Sunday, I hope I'm going to do my best.
Let's take a quick look at some other stories. Algeria midfielder Nabil Bentaleb has been dropped from Schalke's first team for a second time this season until further notice. The club have confirmed it was for disciplinary reasons. Elsewhere, Liverpool and Senegal international Sadio Mane has been named in the Professional Footballers Association Team of the Year. He's the only African to make the list. And Peter, that's it.
I just want to make it clear that you and I don't have any spats, at least not public ones.
No, just jokes in the office all day.
Many thanks. All right. Now, just before we go, another look at our top story again. Tropical storm Kenneth has made landfall in northern Mozambique. It comes just a month after Cyclone Idai devastated the region. Over 600 people are known to have died and hundreds more have still not been found. That's it on Focus on Africa from me, Peter Okoche, and the rest of the team. Thanks for watching. See you soon.